Are you a book junkie like me? If so, you are in for a treat, as today I'm going to be sharing I had to count them, my top 5 favorite personal development books for beginners who are just getting started when it comes to building their business online. What's up? My name is Sherri Brown, and I help busy work-at-home moms to rediscover their voice, build a solid foundation for their business, and show their kids what's possible. And on this channel, I do everything from product reviews, book reviews, tutorials, as well as actual social media and marketing strategies that you can implement to go further faster when building your business online. That way you don't feel like an icky spammer who's chasing off your friends and family. So if you're new here and this seems up your alley, then consider subscribing. Just make sure that you hit the bell so you get notified as I upload new videos each and every week. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and dive in. Now, the one thing I will say about every single one of these books is that they're pretty short reads. I mean, that's the one thing that I love when it comes to personal development is picking up a book and it not be like 1,000 pages long. I like a quick read, but something that packs like a really good punch. And so these are kind of broken down into different categories, and everything that I mention, all the books that I mentioned, like everything's going to be below in the description. So feel free to check that out at any time. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to talk about the very first book, which if you are, I believe that this book, every woman should read it, and every girl, like if you have a daughter, I think that every girl should be required to read this book too. And this is Rachel Hollis's book called Girl Wash Your Face. Now, the one thing that I love about this book is I think it really covers a lot about mindset. And, she just talks about like all these different lies that we tell ourselves. And I just really love the way that she is open and transparent about her own issues. Like she doesn't try to, act like she's perfect, but these are all issues I think that a lot of us face as women at some point or another. So when it comes to mindset and just like if you just want a kick in the pants, like a really good read just to get your butt up and going to where like there's no excuses, you're not giving in to any lies, and you really want to just step into that person that you are truly meant to be, definitely grab this book. So with that being said, we are going to move into the second book. And this second book, I would say it's more like, it's not a straight productivity book, but I think that if you really take the principles into account, you really like implement and sit down and implement like what this book says, it can skyrocket your productivity and I think reduce a lot of stress in your life. And that is the book called The One Thing. It is co-authored, and again, like I'll put the link below, but it's got 2 different authors. Let me see. Okay, so it's by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Maybe I said that right. Again, information is below. But when I first read this book, and again, it's a very short read, I highlighted so much of this book, but I feel like one of the biggest struggles that entrepreneurs face, work-at-home moms face, I think a lot of people who come online to build a business, they try to stretch themselves way too thin. I think they try to do way too much. They try to be everywhere. And I think that's one of the biggest downfalls when building a business. And so this book really addresses, sitting down and thinking about, that one thing that's going to move your business forward. And take, for instance, for me, that one thing is creating content. I'm not a big person, I'm not a huge fan of going out there and reaching out and messaging a bunch of random strangers. And so I realized when it comes to marketing, which is really what I teach, and branding, one of the one thing that I can focus on, the most important thing in my business that's going to allow me to generate leads and build relationships and really impact people on a larger scale is the content that I create, like you're watching right here on my YouTube channel. And so, one part in the book, let me get to it because I just absolutely love this. The very first part of the book, it says, if you chase 2 rabbits, you will not catch either one. That is a Russian proverb. But I want to get to one little part in the book that I had highlighted. You want your achievements to add up, but that actually takes subtraction, not addition. you need to be doing fewer things for more effect instead of doing more things with side effects. Like, oh my gosh, like that's such a powerful statement. And so just reading this book made me just sit down and really think about, what that one thing was that really moved my business forward, while also thinking about all of the other stuff that I've been trying to do and add onto my plate that I needed to just get rid of. So again, the one thing, one of my absolute favorite books of all time, that I definitely think you should pick up and read. And if you've read any of these books I've mentioned, let me know like what like your biggest takeaway was, like down below in the comments. So moving on to the third most recommended book. And these are actually in no particular order, by the way. So if you really need some help with productivity, grab that. Or maybe when it comes to mindset, think about grabbing that book. But the next book that I'm going to mention that I think just packs a big punch, this is a super, super short read at only 117 pages. But that's the book called Magnetic Sponsoring by Mike Dillard. And the one thing that I'm going to tell you about this book is I think it gives a great introduction to just attraction marketing in general and how to go out there and switch your mindset with, in regards to the way that you post, in regards to the way that you market. And one of the biggest mistakes I made early on that I mention all the time in a lot of different videos, if you follow me, is that I was a pretty big spammer for the first 4 years. Like I had no idea what attraction marketing was. I was going out there following the masses, putting up crap, just invaluable stuff that wasn't helping solving a problem. And I remember when I first read this book, I was like, wow. And still, even to this day, and I read it like a couple of years ago, it's still like, I think one of the most powerful books anybody should read if they're just getting started, or they don't have like, just that solid understanding of what attraction marketing is. Grab the book. You can literally read it in no time. Super, super short. Now we're going to move on to the fourth book that I absolutely love and recommend. Now, this book is in the leadership category, and it is called Developing the Leader Within You by John C. Maxwell. Now, he has written, John is like the foremost sought after guy when it comes to leadership development. And to be honest with you, I think that any of his books, like if you are really wanting to develop your leadership skills, I think you can grab, just about any of his books. They're going to pack a big punch. But this is one of the books that I have. Again, one of the reasons why I like it is just the fact that it is a shorter read. I think it's super easy to read, super easy to understand. And, he talks about how really leadership is influence. And, if you really want to get people to if you really want to build rapport with people and get them to buy into, whatever it is that you're doing, you aren't going to have that, if you don't have some sort of leadership skills or influence, okay? So I'm not going to dive into a full book review when it comes to this particular book, but I did just want to tell you a little bit about the topics that it's going to cover. It goes into the definition of leadership, which is really just influence in general, right? But then he talks about the different keys to leadership, the most important ingredient of leadership. Let me see if I can say that. I'm trying to speak too fast, and me being from the South, sometimes that don't always work out. He goes into the ultimate test of leadership, the quickest way to gain leadership. So he just dives really deep into leadership in general. Again, quick read, packs a big punch. So if you're wanting to work on your leadership skills, just, picking up this book, Developing the Leader Within You by John C. Maxwell. But again, I don't think that you can go wrong with any John Maxwell book. Okay, last but certainly not least, another must read when it comes to personal development. And this is a skill, although again, I've never been a huge fan of prospecting and reaching out. I would much rather put out content like I'm doing now that really is going to solve a problem, that's going to be helpful. And, if you like what I'm putting out and you want to work, more closely with me, I like the fact of having a conversation of people, with people who are reaching out to me, okay? It's a whole different vibe. But with that being said, I still think that everybody needs to get better at just communicating. Everybody needs to get better at just people skills in general. And so with that being said, that leads me to my final recommendation for a must-read book, and that is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think he packs it with like tons of different stories and examples. Again, super short read, very, very powerful. But this book, I'm just going to read a couple of things on the back. It said, it covers and introduces simple and life-changing concepts such as a simple way to make a good first impression, how to criticize other people and not be hated for it, an easy way to become a good conversationalist, what to do when nothing else works, making people glad to do what you want, and much, much more. So again, this is one of those books. All of these books that I mentioned are books that I actually go back and I've read more than once. And this is definitely one that I've read more than once, and one that I'll go back and kind of skim over and read at least like once a year. So whether you like prospecting or not, you still need to know how to communicate with people and how to make a good first impression. So with that being said, I am just going to list these out one more time, but of course, all of the information is also below in the YouTube description. And so we have Magnetic Sponsoring by Mike Dillard. Again, a great introduction into attraction marketing. John C. Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You if you want to increase your leadership skills. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Just how to become just a better overall communicator. The One Thing, really, I think it's going to skyrocket your productivity if you really put it into place and just narrow your focus. And the one thing I will say about this particular book is you can use that concept in all aspects of your life. So when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your business, when it comes to your work, whatever it is, just focusing on like that one thing that's going to make everything that much better. So the one thing, one of my faves, I'm just gonna say. And then when it comes to mindset and owning up to just your own and not giving into like those BS excuses, Rachel Hollis, Girl Wash Your Face. Freaking love it. Freaking love her. And so question of the day, let me know which books that you've read. Is there a particular favorite? And if you haven't read them, which book are you grabbing to read next? Hope you got some value from this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and feel free to share it out. Sharing is caring. So if you know anybody else, you have any other friends who are looking to just get better and just learn and grow themselves, then share this out with them. And be sure again to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you back here later on in the week for another video. Bye for now.